Hello there, this is Al24 News. I'm Abdurrahim Kashur and to the headlines. Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty of recruiting and trafficking young girls to be sexually abused by the Latin American financier Jeffrey Epstein. UK COVID cases saw a new daily record of 183,037. France, Italy and Greece also reported a record daily high as the World Health Organization warned of the COVID tsunami. US urged Hong Kong to release detained Stand News employees. As Secretary of State Antony Blinken says silencing of independent media undermines Hong Kong's credibility and viability as global financial hub. Biden and Putin to speak out on Thursday amid Ukraine tensions as Washington crafts a common response to Russia's military buildup on the Ukraine borders with European allies. Hello again and welcome. Those were today's headlines. On the sidelines of the state visit paid by the Mauritanian President Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani by the invitation from the President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune, cooperation agreements were signed concerning several fields that will strengthen the Mauritanian and the Algerian bilateral relations. Zara Farjani.
Algeria and Mauritania signed several agreements related to the sectors of higher education and scientific research, health, vocational training, and micro-enterprises. This came on the second day of the official visit paid by Mauritanian President Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani to Algeria at the invitation of his Algerian counterpart, President Abdelmajid Tebboune.
The relations of the two countries are ancient. A remarkable development that has increased in pace in the recent period by opening the border crossing, which has already become a bridge of communication between the residents of the borders area and doubled the level of trade exchange, which is an important gain for the two countries.
The signed agreements included an agreement for cooperation in the field of higher education and scientific research signed by Algerian Minister Abdelbaki Ben Ziyan and his Mauritanian counterpart Amal Sidi Ould Sheikh Abdullah. The Algerian Minister of Health Abdelrahman Ben Bouzid and the Mauritanian Minister of Employment and Vocational Training Taleb Ould Sid Ahmed signed a protocol of cooperation agreement in the field of health. A memorandum of understanding in the field of vocational training was also signed by the Minister of Vocational Training and Education Yassine Mirabi and his Mauritanian counterpart. The signatures also included a memorandum of understanding in the micro-enterprise sector, which was signed by the Minister Delegate to the Head of Government in charge of micro-enterprises, Nassim Diafat, on the Algerian side, and on the Mauritanian side, the Minister of Employment and Vocational Training. The Mauritanian president described in a press statement the bonds of cooperation between Algeria and his country as wide, diverse, and rooted in history.
The relations of cooperation between our two brotherly countries are wide and varied. We are now working to deepen them and raise these relations to the level of brotherhood and friendship that binds our two brotherly peoples.
The two countries aim to raise their relations to the level of brotherhood and friendship that binds the two brotherly people.
Ghislaine Maxwell, or let me say Ghislaine Maxwell as the French name derived, was found guilty by a U.S. jury on Wednesday of helping the late financier Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls. Jury deliberated for 5 or 4 days before finding Maxwell guilty on 5 of 6 counts, including the most serious charge of sex trafficking of minors, which carries a sentence of 14 years in prison. Zara Farjani again.
U.S. jury convicted British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell is of grooming minors for sexual abuse at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell was found guilty of 5 of the 6 federal counts related to Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Maxwell pleaded not guilty to the charges stemming from her interactions with 4 teenage girls from 1994 to 2004. Bobby Sternheim, part of Maxwell's defense team, confirmed Maxwell's innocence.
We firmly believe in Ghislaine's innocence. Obviously, we are very disappointed with the verdict. We have already started working on the appeal, and we are confident that she will be vindicated. Everyone, be healthy. Have a happy new year.
The defense had insisted Maxwell was a victim of a vindictive prosecution devised to deliver justice because Epstein died by suicide while awaiting trial in 2019. However, U.S. prosecutors argued Maxwell was a dangerous predator who recruited and groomed teenage girls for Epstein.
I think this is a victory for all young children, boys, girls, women, and men who are victims of abusers like this. It will give them the needed push to step forward and to speak their truth and to hopefully get justice like these young girls have with respect to Miss Maxwell.
Maxwell, who was arrested by U.S. authorities in July 2020, has remained behind bars after being denied bail.
New cases of COVID-19 in the United States have climbed to the highest level on record at over 265,000 per day on average, more than a year after the vaccine was introduced due to the highly contagious Omicron variant, according to statistics collected by Johns Hopkins University. The number of the new cases per day has more than doubled in the last 2 weeks, surpassing the previous high of 250,000 established in the mid of January. In England, people are currently unable to book PCR tests in any part of the country after spikes in demand. Pharmacists says that they get a request for tests every 5 minutes, and low stock of lateral flow testing is causing them a huge problem as they have been struggling to keep up with the demand. As the coronavirus regard across Latin America, many nations saw high COVID-19 fatality rates early in the pandemic. Vaccination rates are surpassing those in Europe and North America in many Latin American countries today, which is helping to reduce mortality. More in this report to be clarified.
At first, the vaccination distribution was delayed, with obtaining the vaccines in hand being a big challenge. Latin America and the Caribbean accounted for slightly under half of all COVID-19 related fatalities worldwide, just 6 months ago, according to the most recent data from Johns Hopkins University. The region now accounts for around 10% of COVID-19 related fatalities. According to Pan American Health Organization data, this is owing to the expedited supply of European, American, Chinese and domestic vaccinations to a number of Latin American countries in the second half of this year, and on the top nations in the world in terms of completely vaccinated people: Cuba, Chile and Brazil. One explanation for the effectiveness of such vaccine efforts may be traced back to history. Many Latin American nations have long-standing effective national vaccination campaign against infections like polio. Cuba has done the best in this regard, with its investment on local vaccination paying off after being licensed for emergency use by its drug authorities this summer, and becomes the first country in the world to start mass vaccination of children under 2 years old against COVID. The country has the highest immunization rate in the region and is one of the highest in the world, with 84.1% of the population fully vaccinated.
Police in the southern China have been captured on camera parading 4 alleged offenders through the streets in a public shaming exercise. The 4 men were accused of smuggling people across China's border, which largely sealed because of COVID. The shaming drew mixed reaction online, including in state-owned media. Images and video of incidents which took place on 28 December show 4 men in hazmat suits and face shields being walked through the area of the city by the police while were carrying placards displaying their names and photos. In China, many residents of the northwestern city of Xi'an are running out of food as the city enters its 8th day of lockdown in efforts to contain the latest cluster of COVID-19 cases. 156 new locally transmitted cases reported nationwide on Wednesday, up from 151 a day earlier. More with Nabil Khazini.
As new COVID-19 infections persisted, residents in the Chinese city Xi'an have been ordered to stay in their homes. Xi'an, which is home to 13 million people, is in a lockdown since last Monday. Only certified essential workers are allowed to head out for work, and only one member of each house is allowed out every 2 days to get food. Many residents are unable to leave their residential compounds and are relying on deliveries of necessities. Xi'an authorities responded by announcing a citywide campaign to deliver groceries to residents stuck in their homes. Residents who want to travel must apply for special permission to leave the city. Xi'an reported 151 infections with confirmed symptoms, nearly all of the 152 cases in China, bringing the total number of local Xi'an cases to nearly 1,000 during this month. No cases of the Omicron variant have been announced in the city so far. The imposed tough curbs come in line with Beijing's policy of zero COVID and to immediately contain outbreaks as they appear. The lockdown is the most severe in China in almost a year. The Beijing's Winter Olympics start on February, and leaders in China promised safe games where spectators will be able to attend one of the most famous sports events in the world.
The Russian envoy to the Iran nuclear talk has stated that he had met with his U.S. counterpart, where the 8th round of talks is taking place. Close conciliation and coordination between the Russian and the U.S. delegation. Russian Mikhail Olanov wrote this statement over his page on Twitter, claiming in another post as well as there was satisfaction positive turn in the talks. 6 staffers of renowned anti-BG new website were arrested on allegations, or let me say, allegation of seditious activity in Hong Kong, where China has been tightening its grip. The independent media silence, according to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, affected Hong Kong's credibility and viability as a global financial hub. Islam Seed.
On Wednesday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on Chinese and Hong Kong authorities to free staff members of the pro-democracy media outfit Stand News, who were imprisoned after the magazine was shut down by police.
We call on PRC and Hong Kong authorities to cease targeting Hong Kong's free and independent media and to immediately release those journalists and media executives who have been unjustly detained and charged. By silencing independent media, PRC and local authorities undermine Hong Kong's credibility and viability.
Melanie Joly, Canada's foreign minister, also condemned the detention of journalists in Hong Kong, including Dennis Hu, Hong Kong native who grew up in Canada.
We are deeply concerned about the arrests in Hong Kong of current and former board and staff members from Stand News, including Canadian citizen and activist Dennis Hu.
After the closing of convicted tycoon Jimmy Lay's Apple daily newspaper, due to a national security inquiry this year, Stand News, a non-profit organization founded in 2014, was the most notable remaining pro-democracy publication in Hong Kong. The assault on Stand News has heightened concerns about press freedom in the former British colony, which returned to Chinese sovereignty in 1997, on the assurance that its liberties, including the freedom of the press, would be preserved. Following Beijing's imposition of a security law, the U.S. has already levied sanctions on Hong Kong authorities and limited the territory's independent status under U.S. regulations.
The late Archbishop Desmond Tutu's body was taken to St. George Cathedral in Cape Town on Thursday, where it will lie in a state from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. local time for the public to pay their respect. Since Sunday, hundreds of mourners have gathered in the church to offer flowers and sign a book of condolences. Saudi Arabia King Salman spoke of concerns over Iran's behaviors with the international community on its nuclear program. In his speech to the kingdom's advisor Shura Council, the king expressed hopes that Iran, as a neighboring, will change its negative policy and actions in the region and to move towards dialogue and cooperation. President Joe Biden will hold a phone call with his counterpart Putin to discuss many topics, including diplomatic engagement and talks. The U.S. government is still coordinating cooperation with European allies in response to Russia's military buildup in Ukraine borders, and Ukraine government asked for more U.S. military help to dissolve Russian, but the request is still pending. Kim Jong, North Korean dictator, celebrated a decade of ruling in his country after he took power in 2011 following the death of his father Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong held a key ruling party meeting. Usama Yedi.
Kim Jong-un has ruled North Korea for over 10 years with an iron grip. December 2021 marked the 10th year for him in North Korea as a leader following the death of his father Kim Jong-il. North Korean government saw a key ruling party meeting, a forum that the ruler always used to make policy announcements in the presence of the highest decision-making bodies. Kim Jong-un, as a commander-in-chief of North Korea's armed forces, has amped up the country's weapons program. On his watch, the North has tested 4 nuclear warheads and in 2017 a missile capable of reaching the United States. His meeting with the former President Trump in 2018 and 2019 failed to kickstart negotiations on denuclearization in return for sanction relief. And at the annual ruling party Congress earlier this year, Kim said the U.S. remains North Korea's biggest enemy, but his other enemy is the coronavirus pandemic. Kim has sealed the country's borders for the second time in bid to keep COVID-19 out, which means no trade and no aid, not even donated vaccine doses. Kim Jong-un marked the end of his first decade in power armed to the teeth, but more isolated than ever, as he tried to battle a killer virus in one of the world's poorest countries. He's no closer to what he really wants, which is relief from devastating sanctions and normal relations with the rest of the world.
After calls from aid organization Indonesia, or let me say Indonesia, decided to allow a boat carrying Rohingya refugees, which was stranded, to sea dock in the local port. An official at Indonesia's chief security minister said that this country government decided, in the name of humanity, to give refugees to Rohingya refugees currently afloat on boat near the Indonesian territory. Myanmar troops attacked Ban Tao at 11 a.m. on December 7. A young framer told AP that about 50 soldiers were crashing and chasing people on foot. Farmers and other villagers fled into forests and fields, but 10 people, including teenagers, were captured and killed. He said that only 14 of them were a photo of his friend showing the burnt wreckage of victims lying face down with his head up, suggesting that he was alive and cremated. The Libyan public prosecutor ordered the provisional custody of the Minister of Culture and Knowledge Development, Mobrouk Tougi, on suspicion of obtaining benefits in violation of the law and regulations governing public money and foreign official documents. The decision to imprison came after reviewing the financial and administrative documents and checking the procedure integrity and compatibility with legislation governing the distribution of public and money. In Tunisia, Ennahd movement called for comprehensive national dialogue to form a political front. The movement called on all anti-coup forces to unite efforts and options to conclude a common ground through a comprehensive national dialogue, a step Ennahda movement thinks will lead the political popular movement and will accelerate the resumption of democratic life and restoration of legitimacy. Mali's armed forces stated that 4 Malian soldiers were killed and around a dozen others were wounded due to a terrorist attack they have in the west of the country. The army said Thursday the attack occurred late Tuesday in the region of the country where jihadists have attacked soldiers in the past. More international news in this rundown by Islam Islam.
The Omicron variant of the coronavirus is raising fears of a third wave of the pandemic in India. The country on Wednesday reported a total of nearly 800 Omicron cases, while COVID-19 infections rose by 9,195 new daily cases, a 44% spike from the previous day. Italy's finance police said on Monday that they have suspended a total of 17 public and private messaging channels advertising the sale of illegal COVID-19 vaccination certificates. Authorities monitoring the network identified 9 private profiles and 8 public channels offering fake green passes both in digital and paper format. An outbreak of a bird flu of the H5N1 type at a poultry farm in the Czech Republic last week. Out of 188,000 birds from the farm, more than half of them died over the Christmas holidays. Veterinarians estimate that they will destroy around 1 million eggs by Wednesday. A court in Moscow ordered the closure of a memorial human rights center on Wednesday, in the latest blow to Russian civil society groups. The decision comes a day after Russia's Supreme Court decided to close its sister group Memorial International.
Fires are raging in the high-altitude, little populated forest areas of southern province of Rio Negro, Chobent, and Niquén. According to authorities, some 250 firefighters and national park employees battle plays in Argentina's Patagonia region, which have destroyed thousands of hectares of forest. Some of the fires are as much as 300 kilometers apart. No casualties have been reported so far since Friday. The 11 billion Nord Stream 2 pipeline is currently awaiting approval from Germany and the European Union. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Wednesday the new pipeline to Germany has been filled with natural gas, nothing that it could help quickly reduce soaring European energy prices. The 11 billion Nord Stream 2 pipeline is currently awaiting approval from Germany and the European Union, and officials warned that decision won't come in the first half of 2022. Final approval for the controversial Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia to Germany is not expected to come in the first half of 2022. Yet, it had started filling a second pipe with natural gas, stepping the preparation to launch projects.
Pavel Zavelny, head of the Energy Committee in the lower house of the Russian parliament, said the Nord Stream 2 pipeline built to deliver Russian natural gas to Germany could enter into service as early as January. Russia completed construction of the dual pipeline in September. However, it is yet waiting for an approval from Germany and the European Union, amid political tensions over a buildup of Russian troops on the Ukrainian border. Germany says it needs the gas to help the EU's largest economy transition away from coal and nuclear energy. Critics say the project will increase Europe's dependence on Russian gas and could be used to apply political pressure. Poland and Ukraine have been particularly vocal in their opposition. The United States has also opposed it. Concerns over Russia's military buildup near Ukraine have put renewed focus on the pipeline. Pressure on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Western countries has increased in recent weeks as a result of recent movements of suspected threatening Russian troops near the border with Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov pointed out that the pipeline company continues to discuss the certification process with the German regulator.
Now moving on, deeper and in-depth in the international news with the economic sector by Nabil Khazini.
European gas prices declined to near the lowest level in 3 weeks, with increased inflows at terminals in the region bringing relief to European market. This coincides with more ships heading to Europe, loaded with liquefied natural gas, raising expectations that the new supplies will help rebalance the market that is suffering from tight supplies. Bitcoin prices dropped 6.1% to $47,607, losing $3,111 from its previous price. Bitcoin, the world's biggest and best-known cryptocurrency, is down 30% from the year's high of 69,000 on November the 10th. Oil prices rose for the 7th consecutive session, tracking the impact of a broad-based raise in global markets. Brent crude is now at $78.76 per barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crude WTI is at $70.72 per barrel on the latest oil prices. US billionaire Elon Musk has given up another $1 billion of his share in Tesla, moving closer to his goal of reducing his share in the electric car maker by 10%. The CEO of Tesla Corporation, the world's richest person, has sold more than 934 shares, according to a disclosure filed with the US Securities and Exchange Commission.
The first edition of Women's International Rally called Mediterranean Mermaid started today, 30th of December. The race started from Algiers with the participation of 38 women of different ages. The rally was organized by the National Association for the Promotion and Development of Women's Sport and will take place in Algiers, Tiaret, Al Bayed and Mascar from the 30th of December to the 2nd of January.
The first edition of Women's International Rally is named Mediterranean Mermaid, since Algeria will host the big contest of Mediterranean Games next year. This is why, as a motorsport federation, along with other federations, we preferred to name it like that. And it will be under the slogan of Mediterranean Mermaid. The choice of mermaid is for women participants who came from different states of the country, in addition to the participation of the broadly Palestine country.
We are glad to participate in the first edition of Women's International Rally as Palestinians. The race proves that Algerian authorities give big importance and attention to women, which engage them more in domains of sports, and that's nice. We also thank Algerian sports authorities for inviting Palestine to participate in this competition.
And up with sport at the press conference this morning in Doha, the national team Jamal Coach Balmadi justifies his choices and reveals new plans as with every large-scale game. The list of called-up players is never undisputed. This time for the 28 players called up to wear green jerseys during the African Cup of Nations CAN 2022. The coach explained his options, saying that Amir Sayoud could never find a place in this squad, emphasizing that Soufiane Bendebka surprised him with his good performance during the Arab Cup.
Amir Sayoud scored his first goal in the final of the Arab Cup against Tunisia. He is a great player, but his position in the forward line has a great competition. Yassin Brahimi and Farid Boulaya are the first choice. Regarding Soufiane Bendebka, I was surprised by his quality performance during the Arab Cup. He proved himself and now he has a place in my squad. He deserves to be with us.
Inshallah, better to come for our national football team. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a reminder for our main stories. Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty of recruiting and trafficking young girls to be sexually abused by the late American financier Jeffrey Epstein. UK COVID cases soared to a new daily record of 183,037. France, Italy and Greece also reported record daily high as the World Health Organization warned of COVID tsunami. U.S. urged Hong Kong to release detained Stand News employees. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says silencing of independent media undermine Hong Kong's credibility and viability as a global financial hub. Biden and Putin to speak out on Thursday amid Ukraine tension as Washington crafts a common response to Russia's military buildup on the Ukrainian border with European allies. That's all what we have for now. Thank you for our 6 p.m. edition. Goodbye.